She never asked for the spotlight. She never posted matching vacation photos. She never chased the cameras. And yet on July 21st, 2025, the entire world turned to her in silence because she was the only one left who saw what really happened that day on the shores of Costa Rica, when Malcolm-Jamal Warner stepped into the ocean to protect their daughter and never came back. No publicist, no press conference, no official statement from the family, just silence. For days, then weeks, until a single letter changed everything. A letter written, not for headlines, but for the man she loved. It wasn't posted on Instagram. It wasn't read at a podium. It was private, handwritten, tear-stained. And for those lucky enough to hear it, it said more about love, loss, and legacy than any viral tribute ever could. This is the moment. Malcolm-Jamal Warner's wife broke her silence. The world knew him as Theo Huxtable, but to her he was the man who never raised his voice, who held her hand through storms, and who walked into the sea without a second thought because his daughter was standing behind him. This is not just a tribute. This is not just another celebrity death story. This is her letter. And what she wrote will stay with you long after the video ends. It was supposed to be just another family getaway, the kind of peaceful escape most of us dream about: blue water, open skies, and the people you love most standing beside you. But on July 21st, 2025, everything changed, and it happened in less time than it takes to say goodbye. According to Costa Rica's Judicial Investigation Agency, also known as OIJ, Malcolm-Jamal Warner was standing on the shoreline with two people, his daughter and a close family friend. They were at a beach in the Punta Arenas province on the Pacific coast. It wasn't storming. There were no dramatic weather warnings. It was just the kind of day where the waves looked calm until they weren't. In their official report, investigators stated Mr. Warner was playing with his daughter at the seashore. He then left her out of the water and entered the sea with a friend. They were swept away by the current. That's it. That's all it took. One moment of trust. One moment of protection. One step into the water. And he was gone. Only the friend returned. Malcolm didn't. But this wasn't some reckless dare. He didn't go into the water for fun. He did it because his daughter was standing just feet behind him, and he wasn't going to let danger creep close enough to touch her. That's the part that headlines didn't shout loud enough. This wasn't a tragic accident. This was a father's instinct in motion. This was the moment love became action without hesitation. And for his wife, watching it unfold in real time, there was no camera to pause, no script to rewrite. There was only that image burned into her mind, her husband walking into the sea, not realizing it would be the last time. She didn't speak for days, but when she finally did, her words didn't just tell a story, they honored a life. And that's where her letter begins. Before we read her letter, we have to understand why it even matters. Because this woman, Malcolm-Jamal Warner's wife, was never someone chasing the limelight. In fact, for years, people questioned if he was even married at all. That's how private she stayed. Malcolm met her later in life. He was 45 years old when he said these words publicly. If I'm going to have a kid, this is the person I'd want to have it with. And then he disappeared from public romance stories forever. No red carpets, no paparazzi-friendly photos, no social media tags, nothing, just silence. And yet, that silence spoke volumes. He said it himself in an interview. We've never had a fight, an argument, a raised voice, or a harsh word. He wasn't saying it to brag. He was saying it to prove something. That peace is possible. That real love doesn't need to perform. They protected their daughter's identity too. There were no family vlogs, no kid interviews, no tabloid photo leaks. He once said, "They are the hugest parts of my life. I keep their identity private, but I want people to know it is possible to be happy and to have love." And that's what made her letter so powerful. Because when a woman who's chosen silence for nearly a decade suddenly puts pen to paper, people listen. This isn't a woman clinging to fame. This is a woman clinging to legacy, to the memory of a man who showed the world how to love quietly, consistently, and without compromise. She didn't want attention, but she knew if she didn't say something now, people would only remember the tragedy and forget the man behind it. So she wrote, not to explain, but to honor. Her voice was never loud, but in that one letter, it was unforgettable. And in the next part, you'll hear exactly what she wrote. My dearest Malcolm, you once said, I met my wife at 45, so it's okay to wait. And now, I whisper those words to myself every night, not because I'm waiting for you to walk back through that door, but because I'm learning how to wait without breaking. You always said timing mattered, that real love doesn't arrive when we want it, but when we're ready to protect it, and you protected ours from day one. There were no staged photos, no oversharing, no pressure to pretend. We didn't have to prove we were happy. We just were, you told the world. We've never had a fight, an argument, a raised voice, or a harsh word. At first, I thought maybe you were exaggerating, but now, no, you weren't describing perfection. You were describing peace, because our home wasn't built on drama. It was built on mutual respect, on staying quiet when the world got loud, on holding hands under the table when nobody was watching. You were known for your talent, your legacy, your voice, but the man I knew, he was even more powerful when he was silent. You gave our daughter a father she could admire, a model of masculinity built on patience, not pride, and you gave me a partner who never raised his voice because he knew real strength didn't have. Too, they'll remember you as Theo, but I'll remember you as the man who made breakfast. Slow and bedtime meaningful. The man who saw me before the world could dot. And if I could go back, I'd still choose 45. I'd still choose quiet love over loud attention. I'd still choose you. Every single time. But this letter isn't over yet, because our story didn't end with the waves. It continues with her. Malcolm, she still calls. At Papa's show. Even though she barely understands what television really is. Even though she was born decades after Theo Huxtable first walked onto that living room set, one night, she pointed at the screen, eyes wide, smile, even wider, said the words that made you pause mid-breath. That's Papa. That's Papa. You told me later that it felt surreal. You weren't watching yourself. You were watching her watch you. And in that moment, the spotlight didn't matter. The legacy didn't matter. Only her recognition did. You once said, "It's important to me that she has as normal a life as possible. We protect her identity, but that doesn't mean we hide our love." You never showed her face online. You never allowed press near her name. But behind closed doors, you showed her what it meant to be a father. Not just in big moments, but in tiny ones. Diaper changes. Storytime. Kisses on the forehead after nightmares. Whispers of you're safe. After thunderstorms, you gave her more than a name. You gave her roots. She still asks if you'll be back soon. She still looks out at the ocean as if it might return you. But when I ask her who her hero is, she says, Papa. And when I ask her, why? She says, because he ran into the water when it got scary. You didn't give her a trust fund. You gave her something better, a memory of courage, a father who didn't hesitate when it counted. That memory is the one I will guard with everything I have. Because the waves may have taken your body, Malcolm, but they did not take your legacy. And neither did silence. But I'm not done speaking yet. July 21st, I still hear the waves, not the peaceful kind that lull you to sleep, but the ones that steal things. The kind that don't say goodbye. I remember your hand gripping hers. I remember your eyes locked on the horizon. And I remember your voice. When you looked at me and said, I'll be right back. But you weren't. According to the officials, Mr. Warner left his daughter out of the water and entered the sea with a friend. They were swept away by the current. That's what the report said. Simple, clinical, final. But I saw the moment behind that sentence. You didn't just enter the water. You chose it. You saw something, maybe a shift in the tide. A pull beneath the surface, a change in the waves. You reacted like a father, not a celebrity, not an actor, just a dad. You made sure she was safe. You walked into the sea with someone you trusted. But even trust can't hold you when the ocean decides otherwise. Only one of you came back the moment they told me. I already knew, not because I saw it happen, but because something inside me collapsed before the phone even rang. People keep saying you died a hero. They're not wrong, but I don't think you were trying to be one. I think you were just doing what you always did, protecting your daughter. Without a second thought, without drama, without delay, you never looked back. And somehow, that made it worse, because I didn't get to scream for you. I didn't get to hold your face and beg you to stay. I didn't get to say, please don't go. But even now, after the stillness, the silence, the search that turned into a recovery, I'm not angry because you didn't leave us. You shielded us, and now it's my turn to protect what's left of you. Your name. Your story, your daughter, and the promise you kept right until the very end. Malcolm, you always asked if you were doing enough, if you were showing up right, if your silence was too quiet for the world to understand your love. Let me tell you now, you were enough. You were enough when you held her tiny hand on her first day of school. You were enough when you stayed up rewriting scripts at 3 a.m. You were enough when you turned down opportunities because they meant missing bedtime. And you were more than enough. When you stepped into that water, you once said, I want people to know that it's possible to have peace, to have love, to raise a child quietly. and still be whole? You didn't just say the two lived it. You lived it in every choice you made, every word you didn't speak, every headline you walked away from. People thought your silence meant mystery, but it was never that. It was protection. It was love, wrapped in stillness. And that's why I'm writing this letter now, because the silence you left behind, it's not empty, it's sacred, and I want the world to hear it through me. I want them to know that love doesn't need to be loud to be real, that the strongest men aren't always the ones in front of the cameras. They're the ones who carry the weight in the quiet. You were my harbor, the place I ran to, the calm in my storm. But to her, you will always be the lighthouse, that the steady light she'll look for when life feels dark. The reason she believes in men who protect without pride, and as long as she lives, you live. You don't need a memorial. You already built one. Her heart is the monument. And this letter is my promise. I will carry both of you with me, always. Part 8. She didn't release a statement. She didn't post a black and white photo. She didn't go live on Instagram with tears in her eyes. Instead, she wrote a letter. Not for the press, but for the man she loved. And for the world he quietly shaped behind the scenes. There's something hauntingly powerful about a woman who said nothing for years, finally speaking. To explain, not to complain, but to honor. In just a few pages, she reminded us all what real love looks like. When no one's watching. It's not perfect. It's not poetic, but it's present. And sometimes, it walks into the ocean without hesitation, because its child is standing on the sand. Malcolm-Jamal Warner may be remembered by millions for his role on The Cosby Show, but now, through her letter, we see who he truly was behind closed doors. A man who loved quietly, who protected fiercely, and who left behind more than a legacy. He left behind a living reminder of what it means to show up, even when it costs everything. Her letter didn't scream, but it echoed through the crashing waves, through her daughter's memory. And now, through yours. If this story moved you, don't just scroll past it. Carry it with you. Share it with someone who needs to believe that real love still exists, that quiet men still protect, and that silence can still speak volumes. Because some stories aren't meant to be shouted. They're meant to be felt.